Hello, welcome to Heidi Relationships. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe if you enjoy the video. The first story is titled, "Today I found out my 19M boyfriend has been cheating on me 18F with his mother for our entire relationship. My BF and I have been together for almost a year now. We met at my mall food court job and immediately hit it off. After a month of knowing each other, he asked me to be his GF. Of course, I said yes. Our relationship has been pretty great up to his point. He takes me on dates, compliments me, and just makes me feel super special. The only weird thing is he would never let me meet his mom. His parents are divorced and have been for almost his entire life. The divorce was messy, and his father ended up getting full custody. They had the typical every other weekend and 6 weeks out of the summer setup. I have met his dad and his paternal family, but he would be weird when I brought his mom up. He would tell me things like, 'We have a complicated relationship,' or, 'I'll tell you about it later on.' About 3 months into the relationship, I began to realize he would never answer his mother's calls or texts around me. He would hastily clear it out or step into another room to talk to her, even if it was just texting. I tried to not let it bother me because I wanted to respect his boundaries. Last week he spent the night with me for the first time. I woke up around 3 a.m. because of a bad dream and I couldn't go back to sleep. I rolled over to grab my phone in the dark but accidentally picked his up instead. I looked at the messages from his mother. I opened his phone and began to read through them and noticed they were mostly very sexual. There would be nudes exchanged, hardcore sexting, and messages for them to meet up for sex. I read the conversations in disbelief. I tried to pretend like it wasn't real and I dreamed it. A few days later I confronted his about it. It didn't take long before he broke down and told me everything. He had been having sex with his mother since he was 13 years old. They usually have intercourse once a week, sometimes more. They've been doing this throughout our entire relationship. He never told her that he had a GF because he wanted them to still have their weekly sessions. At this point I DK what to do. I love him with all of my heart, but I am so disgusted with him and his mother. I haven't talked to him since he told me everything. After he told me, I ran out and drove to a town 2 hours away. I blocked him on every social media and his phone number. I changed the locks to my house. I have also called the week into work so he can't find me. What should I do? Make it work out or break up with him? Update: Thank you everyone for your advice and kind words. I have decided that I am going to talk to his dad and him both. I'll talk to his father first, then him. That way his father can help me figure out what course of action we may need to take. I messaged both of them an hour ago. His father agreed to meet this afternoon. I unblocked BF and I'm still waiting on a reply from him. I will update later after I talk to them both and decide what we should do. A user in the comments said, "Though your boyfriend is a victim, don't push away your feelings either. You are a victim of a cheating partner. He is the victim of abuse and molestation and a long litany of other evils. You're allowed to feel hurt that as an adult he decided to continue an intimate relationship with his abuser whilst lying to you. He could have simply stayed single. When he chose to date you, he chose to cheat, he chose to deceive. This is all kinds of fucked up. This may be a situation where you reach out to groups, organizations in your area for free legal advice." Another commenter said, "What she is doing and has been doing is super wrong and he deserves help, but you can't and shouldn't be that help. In part because you are also hurt by this and can't really provide unbiased support, but also because there is no way he can be in an honest relationship right now until he figures out how to end this unhealthy mess and come to terms with his trauma." Other people might disagree, but I don't think you're obligated to talk to him right now because the hurt and betrayal are too fresh, and it would probably not be productive for either of you. Best of luck. This sounds like a very painful situation and I'm so sorry you have to deal with it. The next story is titled, Update. Today I found out my 19M boyfriend has been cheating on me 18F with his mother for our entire relationship. I have no idea where to start with the events that have occurred within the past 11 hours since I last posted. I am still shaken up and this is hard to process. My BF finally messaged me back a few hours after I asked him to meet up with me. He agreed to meet me at his apartment. I made sure that I was going to talk to his dad before him so he could help me find the correct course of action for my BF. Well, I met with the father, we will call him X. I was so scared before talking to X that I was shaking. My voice was unsteady and I had tears in my eyes when I walked in. I had no idea where to begin. X looked concerned, so he sat us down across from each other. I told X that I believe his son has been sexually abused for 6 years now. Of course, X was taken aback. I started to tell him about what my BF told me. That's when X started to be more and more puzzled. He stopped me while telling the story I knew about my BF and his mother. X told me that there's no way this is completely true. When he says this, I start getting confused as well. X tells me that my bus mother died in a car accident when he was 8. X never remarried or had a GF. At this point I am dumbfounded and I have no idea what to say. X tells me that he didn't think my BF's mother was sexually abusive while she was alive or why my BF would even tell me this. X also tells me that he has no idea who, mom, might be on his phone. I take a few minutes to calm down and think before I head over to my BF's apartment. The drive was only 10-ish minutes from X's house to my BF's. I took this time to process what X told me and what I would say to my BF. When I got to the apartment, I promptly went inside. I demanded answers immediately. I asked the truth about his mother, the messages I saw, and if they've really been having sex since he was 13. Of course, he apologized again and gave me the same story, but it made me angry. This is where I lost my cool. I yelled and told him that X told me that his biological mother had been dead for almost 11 years. I told him I knew there was no way the story he told me was true because his mother passed when he was 8 years old. My BF became silent and looked down. At this point I was crying uncontrollably. I felt so bad for what happened and I wanted to get him therapy. I was willing to forgive him for keeping the secret from me. My BF was silent for a few minutes, then finally spoke to me. He told me he made the whole story up. The contact he had as mom was an ex-girlfriend he regularly hooked up with. She was 20 and a bartender in our city. He put her name as mom so I wouldn't get suspicious that he was talking to another woman so often. He didn't think I would find out, so he fabricated the whole story up. This way, I wouldn't be mad at him. He told me he figured I would feel sorry for him and stay with him. I felt so betrayed when he confessed this. In past few days I went from having a healthy relationship to thinking my BF had been sexually abused by his mother, then to find out it was all a lie just because he didn't want me to know he was sleeping with this ex. He tried to justify it further, telling me it was meaningless, and he only loved me. I told my BF that I want nothing to do with him and left. He tried to follow and plead with me but I ignored him. I drove home, threw out everything he gave me, and blocked him once again. I cannot believe he lied about something so major just to protect himself. I haven't stopped crying since I left his apartment. I'm so hurt and now I don't know what to do. I no longer want him in my life. I'm considering moving towns so he can't find me. He has gotten online and used a fake number to try and get a hold of me to apologize. I need to clear my head and try to take everything in. I will turn off my phone and computer for a while so he can't try to contact me again. Update: so my now ex-BF came to my apartment and started banging on the door, begging to be let in so we could talk. At this point I have turned all the lights off. I am being quiet so he will hopefully leave. I know he can see my car out front, so it's obvious that I am here still. I want to call the cops, but I am not sure there's much they can do. I'm thinking about going back to live with my parents until this blows over with him. I am also considering talking to his ex that he was hooking up with. I got her full name and where she works. I will keep updates as I learn more about my ex-BF. Last update: so I have been noticing a lot of similar comments, so many that I can't reply individually to each one of them. I'll just clarify some common questions I keep seeing. This account was made to get this off my chest and be a throwaway, so here this goes. 1. The nudes. Yes, it seems out there that I couldn't tell. Here is why it was difficult: because they were all close-ups of the genitals. Looking back, if I would have paid more attention, yes, I could have known, but I wasn't thinking about that at the time. I was scared. 2. The phone. It was dark and I picked one off the nightstand and opened it. No, he didn't have a passcode. Yes, I did realize it was his but kept reading. I was just alarmed from the few messages I read on his lock screen, so I decided to keep reading. 3. Dead mother. I asked about his mother many times, but no one ever gave me a fraught answer. They were always vague, like they didn't want to talk about her. We had only been dating for a few months and I don't feel like I should press about something someone doesn't want to discuss. 4. The ex. I cannot post much at this point on here because I decided to take legal action. I got into contact with his ex and I can say this isn't the first time he has done something sociopathic like this. He has made some illegal moves and I decided to take this a step further. 5. My job. No, I not longer work at the food court. I have a better paying job at the moment. I do have an apartment that my parents help pay for and they gave me a car to drive until I can support myself. My parents are super supportive and caring, they always have been. They're the only reason I am able to have what I have. Edit: I ended up talking to his ex. We had a long conversation and I learned some other information. She told me she had no idea what I was talking about when I said what he told me. She claims she hasn't talked to him in months because of a restraining order she has against him. He harassed her when she broke up with him back in 2017. She also almost had a child with him but decided to abort it when they broke up. I cannot disclose why they broke it off. I am considering a restraining order as well. Since the ex says she's not who he was cheating on me with, I have no idea who it is. I could care less at this point. I can't tell much else since I want legal action. I have told what I can to the best of my ability. The next story is titled, BF26M, accuses me of getting mad because he bought cake for his sister 20F, and not for me 26F. It is currently the third week of quarantine and I need to know if the problem lies with me. Quick context: I have been very busy with my work from home, and things have been stressful and urgent with my job. On top of this, I have been handling the majority of the daily household chores such as throwing out the trash, washing the dishes, cooking meals and the like. I would literally pace from kitchen to laptop to make sure my online absence isn't holding back my team's workflow. To be honest, my heavy workload and the sense of productivity helps me cope with the quarantine situation better. I do feel a sense of fulfillment. Meanwhile, my BF games the whole day, which is okay with me if that is his way of coping. Last night, I kissed him goodnight, which caused him to die in the game he was playing, so he flips out at me, says that I just go there to check on his screen. I cried myself to sleep but he apologized, so all is well. Today, my morning started with getting scolded for work. I forgot to update something that I should've, and have been stressed about it, which I confided in my BF. I likewise reminded him that it's his sister's b-day. He says he'll go to the grocery and I ask him if he could buy me a slice of cake, or something sweet like a pastry. He comes back and tells me he did not buy me cake because it would be weird to buy both his sister and me cake because it's not my b-day. Disappointing, but okay. I go back to work and I guess my face showed annoyance or stress because next thing he says is, "Are you really mad I bought my sister cake and not you?" I tell him no. He insists and says, "You're mad I bought my sister cake and not you." He's always had a tendency to insist of his perception of what the other person feels, and my patience runs out as well. I tell him, "I'm not mad you bought your sister cake. I'm mad you didn't buy me cake." Voices start to escalate and his insistence that my frustration is on him buying his sister cake is something I can no longer tolerate, so I walk out. I want to make it clear that I am not upset over him buying his sister cake. I even reminded him it was her b-day. What frustrates me is why he would harp on that, painting me as some sort of monster that cannot handle someone else getting cake instead of me. It is his insistence on what my feelings are that I cannot handle, because this is not the first time or scenario he's done this. It feels like screaming into a void. So Reddit, did I just overreact? Am I just on edge? A user in the comments said, "You are not overreacting. You asked him for a treat because you were having a tough day." Not only did he not follow through on a super simple task that he should have thought of on his own, but he also somehow managed to start a fight about it. He's not helping with the household. He's not enjoying your company at home. He's not listening to you or trying to be kind to you. I'm glad you have somewhere else you can stay. Stay strong. A relationship doesn't have to feel like this. Ideally, it should feel like a team, stronger together rather than making things harder. The next story is titled, Update, BF26M, accuses me of getting mad because he bought cake for his sister 20F, and not for me 26F. After staying at my cousin's, I went back to our apartment to pack all of my things and retrieve important items that I couldn't go without, i.e. my laptop charger, eyeglasses, pills, etc. He tried to stop me from leaving, and we had an in-depth talk about the problems we have been having. He admitted to not treating me right, saying I deserve much better. Damn right I do. He tells me he will try to be better and that he will make more of an effort to show me he cares. Given that, as many of you pointed out, this is not just about the cake but a growing resentment about his lack of effort and thought for me, I couldn't forgive him as easily as I usually have. After that, he proceeds to cook me dinner and insists on buying something sweet for me. I'm not gonna lie, it gave me a glimmer of hope that finally, he understands and that maybe this could work out. I knew this might just be a honeymoon period and told him so. This morning, I was on my laptop and he comes over to give me a kiss. Yay, improvement, right? Feeling positive, I was scrolling through yoga videos on YouTube, on incognito because I was using my non-work email as a login. He tells me that I changed my screen. I say no. He says, yes, I did. And I read through the comments of my last post once again and realized, this will never change. When he insisted, me going for a good night kiss was me checking his screen. When he insisted, I was upset over him buying his sister cake. When he insisted, I do or feel things that I do not. It is all the same. And he will never understand how exhausting and emotionally draining and toxic that is. He has not only managed to make me feel neglected and lonely but has taken away my right to my truth or my feelings. I read Lundy Bancroft and damn, water torturer. My nape cooled when I read accounts of women who have been documenting their experiences and saw it align with my iPhone notes starting from August 2019 detailing our interactions just so I would not have to question myself. I walked away quietly, without even saying goodbye to our dear cat because my weak A might not have been able to leave if I think about never hearing her purr at me again. I have blocked him, all my belongings are in my car, and I am with my cousin looking for a more permanent place to stay. I left my keys, and hopefully all that pain, in that apartment. I am not naive, and though right now I feel free and brave as a mofo, I know there will be many nights ahead where I will drench my pillow with tears. But for now, I will have my cheese bread, and eat it too. The next story is titled, I, 30F, am sitting in the back of my RV as my husband, 32M, rants about how lovely the trip would be if I hadn't joined him. This might be confusing, but I will try my best to be clear. I am typing this on my tablet, so please forgive me for any spelling, grammar mistakes. Just to note, this is the first time that an issue like this has come up in our marriage and I do not know what to do. I have been writing romance novels since I was in college. I was a relatively successful author and I have made a living off selling my novels ever since. I do not make a lot of money, but I do bring home $40,000 a year in book sales. This allows me to stay at home during the day so I can write and also make crafts to sell in my Etsy shop. A few years after college, I met Tim and we instantly hit it off. We dated for 3 years before tying the knot and we bought a house shortly after. Tim makes his living off his investments and stocks, however, we keep our finances separate. This is because Tim inherited a vast amount of money from his family and before we married, I signed a prenup agreement in order to ease his mind. We both contribute an equal share to the joint bank account for bills, then we use the remainder of our money for ourselves. About a year ago I landed a contract to write part of a romance series. The contract was huge, and the payout was over $120,000 for a few months' work. I contributed my share to the joint account and then put the rest of the money into the bank so I could buy an RV. I have always wanted an RV because I love to travel, and nothing would make me happier than being able to write while on the road. Tim is often away on business for days at a time, so the RV would give me an opportunity to get out of the house while he is away. After 6 months of deciding, I chose a lightly used RV and purchased it from the owners for a great price. When Tim found out I purchased the RV, he was excited. He has a travel trailer, but it's not the same as an all-in-one RV. He loves RVs and he wanted to immediately take it out for a trip across the state. We took our trip and Tim couldn't stop talking about how much he enjoyed the experience and he started talking about taking more trips together. I gently reminded him that even though the RV is a fun thing for us to have for vacations, that its main purpose is for me to have something to do while he is away for business, but that we would be taking plenty of vacations together. Tim agreed with me and he let it go for a while. The thing is, in the past few weeks, Tim has been badgering me about taking the RV with him on his business trips. He usually flies when he goes to check his rental properties, visit family, and he is normally gone for 4 to 5 days at a time. We got into an argument because he had to evict a tenant and he wanted to drive the RV across the state in order to do so. I asked him if I could come along, and Tim said he would prefer if I didn't. I then said that if I couldn't come with him, that he couldn't take my RV. I suggested that he take his travel trailer instead and he got mad and stormed out of the house. About an hour later, he started texting me like nothing had happened and then he said he was taking the RV as if our previous conversation had never happened. I called him and tried to explain that he had just purchased a brand new pickup and that if I didn't get to drive his new truck in his absence, why should he get to take my RV when I am not coming on the trip? Tim and I went back and forth and eventually he said I could come along if it meant that much to me. I said I would, and now I am regretting everything. I am sitting in the back of my own RV with a man who won't let me touch the wheel. It has been 3 days since this trip has started, and all Tim has done is rant about how awesome the RV trip would be if I weren't with him. It has made me question everything in our marriage. From how we split our finances to how we argue and function together. This is the first time that anything like this has ever happened, and I don't know what to do in this situation. He is still ranting as I type this, and he's never done that before either. A user in the comments said, "Your rich kid trust fund husband who is jealous of you trying to get his parents' money wants to make you share your toys with him and then turn around and not share your own toys with you. I wouldn't let this guy play Nintendo with me, let alone marry him." The next story is titled, Update. I, 30F, am sitting in the back of my RV as my husband, 32M, rants about how lovely the trip would be if I hadn't joined him. I promised I would update, but things got very hectic and this is the first chance I have gotten. This whole situation makes me very emotional, so please forgive me if this post is not as coherent as I would like it to be. When I posted my first post, we were on the road in the RV and my husband was giving me the cold shoulder while he bitched at me from the driver's seat. You all had some great advice for me about what I should do, and I listened to a few people who suggested that he might be cheating on me. Tim had left his iPad in the back of the RV to charge while he drove. I'm not proud of this, but I was able to sneak his iPad into the bedroom while he was distracted by the road. He was logged into his email account and I quickly skimmed over his inbox but didn't find anything suspicious. I then had the idea to check his sent folder and found out that he had been chatting up his ex from college. It made me sick to my stomach to read the messages, but luckily, they had not yet been physical. Translated from ChatSpeak, the message he had sent his ex was basically, "I can't wait to get my hands on you. It's been years since I felt that mouth. I'm excited." I was disgusted, but I tried to keep calm. We were on the road headed to another state and we planned on stopping at his mother's house. I knew that if his messages were in the sent folder, that meant that he had deleted them. Tim was not planning on being caught and was trying to hide his tracks. He wanted my RV so that he could take his ex around the state and have fun without leaving a credit card trace. I took photos of the emails and sent them to myself in order to preserve the evidence. I then went back to the front of the RV and acted as if everything was fine. I apologized, "Don't worry, I lied," for how I had acted and suggested that we ask his mom to help us work through this. Tim said that he was sorry and that he accepted my apology. He said he was looking forward to using the RV in the future and that he was glad I had come to see reason. I smiled and nodded, but, on the inside, I was cursing his existence. We made it to his mom's house, and I made up an excuse about having to change because my clothes were wrinkled. Tim went inside without me and I started throwing all of his clothes and belongings into a trash bag. I then went inside the house and Tim was sitting with his mom in the kitchen. He asked me what I was doing with the bag and I told him that I was giving him his clothes so that I could leave. Tim then got angry and asked me what the fuck was I doing, and his mom was simply confused. She asked me what was going on and I told her, "I'm not sure myself. I'm waiting for Tim to explain why he was planning to cheat on me with his ex." Tim's mom then started to cry and yell at Tim while he tried to calm her down. I know Reddit does not have a lot of love for religion, but Tim's mother is a fundamentalist. She had loved me from the minute Tim introduced me to her, and it would be an understatement to say that she was very upset with her adulterous son. Tim never tried to apologize to me, instead he chased after his mother saying he was sorry to her. This made her cry harder, because she knew that he wasn't even trying to make amends with me, he was just apologizing to her. She hugged me and told me to just go home and she would handle her son. I thanked her and took the RV keys from Tim. This ended up being a minor wrestling match, and left. I drove home crying, but at least I got rid of my asshole ex-husband. Tim called me the next day and begged me to come back to him. He said it was all a mistake, that he was sorry. I asked him why he didn't apologize at his mother's house, why he didn't say he was sorry when I was handing him his bag. I told him that he didn't care about cheating on me, that all he cared about was how bad it made him look to his family. He tried to explain himself, but I cut him off and hung up. I blocked him on all social media and haven't heard anything since. I have gotten a lawyer and have already started the divorce process. This is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the relationship stories. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video and write a comment. I really appreciate your support and it helps my channel so much. Thank you.